Hello, I'm happy to give you some good news. This coming Tuesday, the 26th of July, or the following Tuesday, the 2nd of August, the Council of Ministers is going to approve the new regulations for foreigners. It is very important both for those who are here in Spain illegally and for those who are in their country of origin and wish to come to Spain to work and improve their living conditions and those of their families. The regulation itself states in the preamble that it makes all these opportunities more flexible in order to create the jobs that are needed, and it also states that 50% of Spanish companies have difficulties in finding workers. Not specialised workers, but simply waiters, transporters, receptionists, etc. We are going to explain a little bit more about the modifications or the most important features in three groups. One of those who are in their country of origin, how does it benefit them? It benefits them in that the Spanish company can make a contract directly to the country of origin. This happened before the economic crisis of 2008, when it was cut, but it also established a very agile procedure so that the company that has the need to cover that job can make a contract in origin. This is very interesting, and in fact we're going to create a job bank on our own website, through which they can offer themselves and offer those who want to come to Spain to work, and that companies can have that database to select them. We'll explain this to you a little later. With regard to those who are in their country of origin and want to come here to work and live, it is also very important that the whole issue of being able to come here to set up their own company or to come here and start a business activity as a self-employed person has been modified. Because I say that it benefits these people who want to do so for a very simple reason. They are not going to ask for a large economic investment, or almost none at all. They're not going to ask for jobs to be created, so in principle, those who want to come to establish themselves as self-employed, the simple fact that they create their own job will be enough. This is very important. The other group that benefits, also in the country of origin, are those students who want to come to Spain to do a higher education course or master's degree, are allowed to work up to 30 hours a week. That is almost full-time. And they are also allowed to use this work for the financial means they need as a student. For example, in a practical case, a person who does not have many financial means for the trip, for the stay, but nevertheless has the possibility of coming with an employment contract, well, that is enough. This is very interesting. The time of stay for studies and the possibility to exchange it for a residence as an employee with a contract or as a self-employed person is also reduced from 3 years and no limit is set. i.e., in principle, the person does higher education or master's studies for more than 6 months and can automatically obtain the residence, which is also very interesting. It is interesting to take into account that this work that the student is allowed to do is a job that can also be self-employed, an IT specialist, someone who wants to come to study and carry his own or her own activity and obtain economic means. Well, this can be done. It's also very interesting to see the benefit given to students. Now, let's talk about those who are in an irregular situation. How does the regulation favour them? Well, it favours in several aspects. One of them is the fact that instead of 3 years, with 2 years of demonstrable irregular stay, this person can have access to social routes. In this case, it would be routes for training. Committing to do a training course, a course that is recognised by the Ministry of Education. They are given a year of residence, that work as a student. But as soon as you finish the course, for however long it takes, even before you finish your residency, you apply for your own residency once you have passed the course. And the good thing is that this residency will be for 2 years, which is also very interesting. You can even apply for it on your own account. This is a huge advantage for those people who are in an irregular situation and want to access the labour market. With regard to the social roots of those people who are in an irregular situation, there is also a very important modification. The fact that the contract that will help them to qualify for the social history for the residents after 3 years of irregularity does not have to be a 1-year full-time contract. It can be a part-time and does not have to be full-time. It only has to cover the minimum interprofessional wage, which in Spain is around 1,100 euros. It can be 30 hours or whatever, but with this characteristic. It also benefits those who are in an irregular situation. For example, the modifications with regard to employment history. Those people who have been working for 6 months in the last 2 years and who want to access employment history do not have to prove it with a labour inspection report. They can prove it with any valid proof. For example, WhatsApp messages with the person who hires them, neighbours, locals who have seen that they have been working for 6 months in an irregular situation. There is another system that does not necessarily require a 2-year stay, even if it has been done in the last year, including those people who have been self-employed and lose their residency either because they have been self-employed and have not been able to renew it, or because they've been self-employed and at some point lose their international protection. So, if they've been self-employed for 6 months, it is also valid for them to be able to obtain residency. This is all explained in general terms because of the length and number of particularities that exist, and also when it is approved, as we have indicated above, will be approved by the Council of Ministers on the 26th of July 2022 or the 2nd of August 2022. 20 days later, it will come into force. How are the immigration officers going to be put into effect? Because a large number of people are expected, especially those who are in an irregular situation and who are going to gain access, especially because of the issue of the routes for training. So, a centralized support unit has been created to help the entire immigration office. In principle, it is quite well thought out. The whole process, the regulations are very beneficial, but as we go along, we will see in practice how it is going to be done. So, if you want to be informed of all these changes, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our social networks, or fill in the form to send the newsletter from which you will receive information. I hope it has been useful, and best regards.